Good morning, everybody. Give us just a second. We're going to let a few more people log in. We've got some more staff joining us too.
Here we go.
All right, well, give it one more minute and we'll get started. We still have people logging in right now. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the compliance roundtable here on Friday. We appreciate everybody's time, taking time out of their busy schedule to join us on a Friday morning. I'd like to introduce some of our managers and senior staff that is with us today on the roundtable. We have Amy Hammond, the Manager of Compliance Monitoring, and she will be doing the roundtable with me. And we also have Manuel Pena, the Manager of Physical Inspections, in case we get any crazy Inspire questions. In addition, we have Carolyn Metzger, Kara Poli, and Justin Merrill, all senior staff in the Compliance Division. We have we have lots of information to share with everybody today, and there will be plenty of time to ask questions. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and Kara will unmute you. Thank you, Kara. Welcome. And we'll be discussing, so the goal of this webinar this morning is to share with everybody what compliance thinks needs to be updated in the compliance monitoring rules. We are taking the entire subchapter out at the July board meeting for approval for public comment. If the board approves, then the rule will go out for public comment for 30 days. Once public comment ends, then us here at TDHCA must prepare a reasoned response and final review, make final changes to the compliance monitoring rules based off of any comments. So that's kind of how the procedure, the basic overview of the procedure goes. What we want to do here today is share section by section of things that we think that need to be updated. And we want to hear your feedback, not only on those items, but anything else you think that should be part of the revision of the rules. So let's get started. And anytime you have a question, just raise your hand and we will make time to take your question and respond. So the first section that we're thinking about amending is section 10.605. And no, we do not have a handout available at this time about what we're reviewing. But we will list the section and the title. So 10.605, elections under IRC 42. We want to codify something that we would already allow, but we want to put it in writing in this section. And that has to do with average income and providing on a case-by-case basis written relief to the taxpayer if they fail to properly designate a group of units that meets the requirements of a qualified group of units. And this is in section 1.42-19B2. So this is something that we've said that we're going to allow. Now we're just going to codify it in our rules, which I think is a positive change or a positive update. The next section that we're talking about this morning is 10.602 reporting requirements. And again, we're just adding that ownership transfers have 10 days to update current contact information in the compliance monitoring tracking system. So that's been a rule for a long time. We're just now codifying it and requiring ownership transfers to update contact information within 10 days. The next section is 10.611, and that's determination, documentation, and certification of annual income. And we have a few changes that we are planning to include. The first change is that we allow the Section 8 verification to be used in lieu of income and asset verifications. This was also in the HOTMA guidance. However, we are making it very clear that if the housing authority has any type of management, ownership, or is an affiliate of the entity associated with certifying households already for income eligibility for the tax credit program, then we will not accept a Section 8 verification. The Section 8 verification, we're also making it very clear it only applies to the housing choice voucher programs. So from time to time, we get questions, can we use this verification if we're public housing or project-based Section 8? And the answer is no. The Section 8 verification is only for households that participate in the housing choice voucher program. In addition, we're adding a caveat. So we already have a rule in place about the household's lowest designation as recorded on the income cert at the time of move-in cannot be increased unless the household was found to never have income qualified for a unit and no longer qualifies for the unit or program rules require change. We're adding that in addition, a household's low income status cannot be removed because of an increase in income unless the increase causes the unit to go over income as defined in Section 42 or the Home Final Rule. We felt like this area needed some clarification regarding that rule. We're also putting in here that generally for every certification will require verification of income and assets to be within 120 days of the certification effective day. Now there will be exceptions to that, but generally we're looking that verifications are current when certifying a household for low income, whether it be move-in or something you're currently certifying them under current circumstances. So we definitely want to see current income and asset verification. We're also clarifying that applications must be completed by each individual adult or married couple. So we want to ensure that each adult household member is being properly screened for all sources of income, assets, and student status. Before we move on, I'm going to be turning it over to Amy this morning. Do we have any questions, Kara?
We don't have any questions right now. We're good to go.
All right. So those are the first couple of sections. I'm going to turn it over to Amy Hammond, and she's going to discuss some of the other sections.
Thank you, Wendy. And Wendy already touched on one of the first things. 10.612 is where we talk about the application, Wendy, not in 611, where we talk about the application, one per married couple. That is in 612. So Wendy already touched on 10.612, one of the just very minor changes. We are adding the married couple. We get this question a lot and felt like we needed to make sure it was in writing for all of you. The next thing that we have added to 612 is under the bond recertification requirements, where all bond developments with less than 100% of the units set aside for households with income less than 50 or 60 area median income have to do the full recertifications. We felt instead of having to take the rule out again, we are hoping that the current, we've been years and years and years, we've been hearing that they have legislation or a bill going through that will bring average income to the bond program. And so in anticipation and hopes that that will happen, we thought that adding some language about if subsequent legislation allows for the use of average income set aside for the bond program, the income threshold will increase to 80% on this recertification requirement. So that's just our hope that legislation will eventually go through and that we won't have to adjust the rule because we'll already have this language in there. 10.613 is our next section, and this is lease requirements. The only thing that we really added into this was a requirement that is from the qualified allocation plan that developments located within a 100-year flood plan must state this in the tenants' rights and resource guide. And we have updated the tenants' rights and resource guide to include just a checkbox for this. So it's a very simple requirement to follow. It's already on the updated tenants' rights and resource guide, but because it's in the qualified allocation plan, we had to put it in our rule. The next section is 10.614 and in which is utility allowances. And in utility allowances, we did a lot of just small cleanup throughout, nothing major. Probably the biggest change in utility allowances is that we had to add how we will review and approve renewable sources. We are looking for a lot of feedback in this area. This is very new to us, but with solar and wind becoming much more out there and available, and really from a federal and state perspective being something that they want to see more, we needed to add how we were going to review utility allowances that incorporate these renewable sources. And at this time, and until we really start seeing them and reviewing them, the only way that we can ensure that the utility allowance benefit of the renewable energy source is being passed to the tenant is through tenant bills. So that will be part of the review process, is that we will need to see tenant bills. And then I think it goes, I'm handing this back over to Wendy for a little bit, but again, Kara, I'll check in with you to see if there's any questions or comments at this time over those sections.
There are a few questions, Amy. So the first question is with regards to changing the designation for a household. And the question is the intent of the policy effectively for 100% properties that once a resident moves in at a lower set aside, they may never change their designation?
That's from Wendy's 611, and that the intent to adding that they can't lose their low income status is not that. The designation change remains the same. We just added that they can't lose their low income status because we have had people removing their low income status. So it's still the same if you are doing full recertifications and you have a policy in place that tells your tenant at the time of recertification, if your income increases, then your designation will increase, then you may still do that. The rule still allows for that. You just cannot remove their low income status at all unless they go OI per 10 or per section 42 or home final rule.
Thank you. The next question is that in addition to the income determination, the Section 8 verification, I believe is what they're referencing, for housing choice vouchers, will the department be allowing for other means tested income determinations?
We have said that we are not allowing for other means tested determinations. The Section 8 verification is the only one we are allowing for.
Okay. And then this is with regards to the new floodplain requirement in the Rights and Resources Guide. Would the 100-year floodplain Rights and Resources Guide requirement apply to all properties or just those where it's required under the specific QAP?
I'm going to turn that over to Wendy. She has been dealing with the 100-year floodplain and the QAP a lot more than I have.
Okay, yes. So this is for properties that will already have this provision in their land use restriction agreement. So I believe that starts in 2022 moving forward.
All right, thank you. That gets us all caught up with questions. So I will, oh, we had one come in just now. Did I hear correctly that bond now requires full research, or was that just if they have markets?
That's just if they have markets. If they're layered with 100% tax credit, the next available unit rule is being met and the annual eligibility certification is allowed. This is. Oh, sorry, did everybody hear me or did?
It cut off towards the end.
Okay, same as it's always been. We're just adding if the legislation passes for the average income, which we're hopeful it will, the 80% there, so that our rule is in line with federal regulation.
All right, I think we are good to proceed.
Thanks everybody for your questions. Those were excellent. And feel free to again ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. The next section is monitoring and inspections. This has already been an internal policy of ours, and it's in our standard operating procedures. However, in all fairness, we needed to add this to the compliance rules and make it very clear that developments that score 70 or below or deemed to be in poor physical condition in spite of their score will be subject to an accelerated inspection schedule. So properties that are not in good condition, we're not going to wait 3 years to go back out and do another inspection. We're going to be back out probably within a year's time. And this is generally speaking, so it's a may. There's always exceptions, but we wanted to let people and owners and management companies know if your property is not in good physical condition, we're putting you on an accelerated inspection list. If that happens, we will definitely notify the ownership that they're on an accelerated inspection list. So we are adding that to 10.618. The next section we're adding something is 10.622, special rules regarding rents and rent violations. This is already an IRS policy and something that we get a lot of questions on or we receive a lot of complaints on. So we're just adding some language that developments must provide residents with an option to pay rent in a manner that does not involve out-of-pocket cost. So for our properties to have an online system exclusively that could charge fees to pay rent, they must allow another way for a resident to pay rent that will be at no cost to them. That could be money orders, cashier's check, a regular check, but there needs to be an alternative means where a fee is not an automatic when they pay rent. So that again has already been in existence. We're just putting that in the rules. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about our new section with 811.
Thank you, Wendy. But before that, I did realize that I was so excited to talk about renewable energy. There were other things that we updated in 10.614 that I think are important to highlight. We did some cleanup, like I said, but in the cleanup, we did add to our rule. It is in statute, so we had, but it wasn't in our rule, and we were citing from actual Texas government code, and so we felt it was important to include it into our rule. It is that housing tax credit properties or tenants receiving Section 8 assistance may not be charged a service fee for sub-metering utilities. So that is in Texas statute, but it was not outlined in our rules. So we wanted to make sure that got in the rule. So it's not anything new. It's just moving it from statute into our rules, so it's there. We've also added that if a utility allowance provider offers more than one rate plan, the plan selected must be available to all tenants in the building. We've added that Energy Star certifications will require a certificate for each unit at the time of initial utility allowance review and a letter from the properly licensed engineer annually thereafter. The engineer letter is accepted for a 5-year period. And then we added that developments with fixed multi-family direct loan units, only one utility allowance may be used in the building. If they float, if the multi-family direct loan units float throughout the property, only one utility allowance can be used throughout the property. And then we added that developments with 811 units are responsible for submitting that utility allowance to the 811 division for review, because that was not clear where they were owners, where they were to submit it and to whom. So we just cleaned that up a little bit. Any questions about that, Kara, before I talk about our new section, which is, it's not new, 10.624 has always existed. It's just a major overhaul of 10.624. So any questions on that before I go into this?
We do have a few questions that have come in. The first one, they would like to know, how is the department going to decide which properties will get accelerated inspections? It looks like they might be having some energy or some internet issues. So if we've already answered that, they apologize, but they didn't hear the answer to that.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, so properties that score 70 or below, unless there's some extenuating circumstances, will be added to an accelerated list. Properties that are in poor condition in spite of their score. And that could come through news articles, complaints, an inspection by one of our inspectors or third-party inspectors. If a development is placed on an accelerated waiting list, it will be no secret. We will be informing all parties in writing.
And then, thank you, Wendy. Somebody else had kind of a follow-up to that. Are you also following scores for 80 to 89 being every 2 years and 70 to 79 to being every year?
No, just 7. We've just, in our rule, have just put down anything between 70 below or in poor condition, maybe put on an accelerated list. We have not put anything in the rule that scores between an 80 and 89 that needs to have an inspection every other year. However, I'm definitely open to receiving that feedback and possibility of adding that to the rule. I'd like to know what people think about that.
Okay. And then another one kind of with regards to the 70s and below score, will the tenants be notified that their property has been scored below a 70?
That is not something that we had put in or we're thinking about putting in our rule. But it's a good public comment and it's something to consider. But we have many factors to consider, such as to notify all the residents, this is staff time. It would be in the rule, and then that would require extra monitoring on our end. So they'll have to be carefully thought through.
Okay. Amy, I can answer this question, but I think it benefits asking it out loud. For the Energy Star utility allowances, is this something the Housing Authority publishes, or can we only get that through a HUD model? You want me to expand on that? Okay. So the Energy Star utility allowance is going to be something that is done from a licensed engineer. They are going to evaluate unit by unit, what appliances are there, what lights are there, how was the structure of the building built. Lots of factors go into it. You can go to the Energy Star website for multifamily and find all those details, but you would get a certificate for every single unit. So that's not something that like a housing authority is going to put out. That's going to be something that you as an owner or management group are going to have to handle for the property. And it's pretty involved, I believe. So you would want to kind of visit with the engineer and find out what needs to go with that. And if you have more questions, you can always email me. We can chat offline. And then we do have one more question with regards to the applications. Can you please clarify the applications for married couples? Should they be an individual application?
Amy, do you want me to take that question or do you want to take it?
Sure, you can, Wendy.
So for married couples, if a property chooses to use one application, that will be sufficient. Or if they want to have two applications, that's left up to their discretion.
Okay. And then the next comment or question is, can we delineate between a PHA energy efficient utility allowance versus the Energy Star election on the HUD model? I believe the rule already has those two things kind of broken out, but we can definitely look at that. Amy or Carolyn, do y'all have a better answer for that maybe?
I think it's a good comment, and we can just check the rule and make sure we do have it broken out.
I think when we're talking about PHA schedules, we leave it up to the PHA to define energy efficiency, right? So you have to meet the requirements of energy efficiency from a properly licensed engineer or whatever to use it on the HUD model. But with the PHA schedule, if the PHA says your property is energy efficient, then you can use that schedule. We just need to see that in writing.
Okay, so this next question, and this may be something they need to email Manuel about, with the inspection changes that are being proposed, can we elaborate on how units are inspected? Like when the 20% selected, does this include all layouts, accessibility types, et cetera?
Yeah, that would definitely be a better question in the email. That way I can get a little bit more details. I mean, we don't differentiate when we select units based on that status. You know, we have a requirement to inspect per building, depending on how the 8609 is listed. So, you know, it's mainly 20% of each building. And we just try to get a good sample of each different floor plan. If there's 1s, 2s, and 3s, we'll try to get a good mixture of each.
Thank you. The next question is with regards to the TAA application for married couples. It does not provide space for employment for both persons. That might be a comment better equipped for TAA instead of us. And if it doesn't include it, I think that would be an instance where you'd want to have each person do their own. Wendy and Amy can jump in on that too.
Yeah, and we're not saying that a married couple has to do just one application. We're just saying that we will accept one application for a married couple. So if you want to continue to do two, as the TA doesn't have space for it, like Wendy said before, perfectly acceptable. We've just gotten this question a lot, and if they're a married couple, we're just saying we will allow a single application for a married couple.
So the next question, and Jen, I promise I wasn't ignoring this. I was waiting until kind of closer to the end. They would like to know if we want comments based off of this roundtable, or if they want us to wait until it's posted for comments, or kind of how we want that process to go. I think if I'm understanding the question right.
Yes, so either is fine. If you have some suggestions or feedback for us, please email myself and Amy. You can do that now, or if you want to be part of the board book, because all public comments are part of the board action item that we prepare for a reason response, or if you prefer to have that in, in the board book, you can certainly do it during that time, or both. We're definitely open.
And I think after I talk about 10.624 and we talk about 10.625 a little bit, if anybody has any comments about any of the sections, we're open to hearing them.
And I think unless I'm missing a question, that gets us caught up and ready to go into the 811 section.
Great. So 10.624 has always lived as the compliance requirements for developments with 811 PRA units. However, when we first started monitoring for 811 PRA, it was very basic. It was just talking about the basic requirements, which are like EIV and tenant file recovery requirements. And really, 811 is much more nuanced than that. And then we had kind of 811 sprinkled throughout the rule. There was some 811 and 10.612 about file requirements. There was some 811, just sprinkled throughout the rule. And we really felt having one section that encompassed all of the 811 requirements, and a place where if you have 811, you can go to 10.624, and it clearly outlines all of those requirements when it comes to what are tenant file requirements, what are EIV requirements, what are your move out requirements, what are your what are permissible fees, what are non-permissible fees. So we really kind of expanded 10.624 to encompass how we monitor 811 and all of the requirements. Nothing added in 10.624 is anything outside of federal or state regulation. We just kind of cleaned up the entire compliance monitoring rule since the whole thing was coming out. And instead of having to search each section of Subchapter F, for 811, you can just go to one place in 10.624, and it will walk you through how you're going to be monitored for your 811 PRA units. And we feel like this is probably the most needed change in all of the rule, and it's exciting to have a space where it all is, and it includes everything that you might need to know about your monitoring review with 811. But there's nothing in there again that is outside of federal regulation or state statute. We didn't add anything extra or anything. It just really kind of streamlines and outlines all of the 811 requirements for you. And I think that's it for that. I could go through each of them, but it's quite a big change. So be looking for it and read through it, but I think it's a good one. And then Wendy, if you want to talk about.
Do we have any questions, Kara, before we move on?
Well, we do have a question. It's kind of a follow-up to how the comments will be considered. I'm going to read it exactly like it's written so that I don't confuse the issue. So the question is about if they make a comment, will it be considered after the draft rule is published, or if that will be substantial? If so, we suggest a pre-draft for comment to give us the best opportunity for change through public comment.
So we can do our best to provide something on our webpage. I hate to make promises because of the way that this internally works. So once this rule is drafted, it's prepared, and it goes through our legal division and our executive staff. And then it also goes over to the governor's office. So there may not be that much time between all those approvals to the time it's actually posted in the board book. If we can get that process maybe started a little early and everybody get that reviewed early, I'm happy to post a copy of what we're going to present in the board book ahead of time. However, sometimes we're at the last hour just getting our board items done. So I don't want to make any promises, and I can't release anything until legal and our executive have had an opportunity to review and comment themselves. So this is a possibility, and if we could get it done early enough and approved enough, I'm happy to send out a listserv and provide a copy prior to the board posting. What else, Kara?
Just a follow-up comment on that. That the original question ties to what we have asked for years, treat it like the QAP. We would like parity with how the QAP is handled. So yes, please, Wendy, on what you just shared.
We will do our best. Absolutely. Anything else?
Yes. Is there any reason in statute or the Texas Administrative Code why inspection scores cannot be publicly shared on TDHCA's website?
That is not in statute or in the rule. That would be more of an IT and question about how we could get property scores up there with reports. That is additional work for everybody, and those reports are also available right now through any public information request. So I like that comment and I appreciate that comment, and that would be something we take into consideration and maybe kind of huddle up and discuss if that's something that can be done in the future or moving forward.
That gets us caught up on questions right now.
The last section of the rule that we'll be doing some updates to is the figure in the back of the rule, and that is what is considered non-compliance. It outlines what non-compliance is and for what program, so it's the figure in back of the rule. And we'll be updating that to incorporate mostly the 811 updates that are being made to that chapter of the rule. We'll also be doing some cleanup, some minor cleanup in that figure. Additionally, just throughout the rule, we'll be doing some updates on examples, making sure that they're consistent throughout the entire chapter. We've noticed some little errors through our review of the subchapter F. We'll be updating our website address, email addresses also throughout the rule. So there'll be some little changes like that throughout the rule as well. But that, and I'll turn it over to Amy, that is all that we are thinking here as of right now for changes. And that's one of the reasons we've hosted this roundtable, is for you to ask questions, make suggestions, let us know your thoughts. You know, sometimes we think something is easy, and but we're not sitting in your chair every day administering this program, especially on site. So it's important to hear feedback from our partners. And I appreciate everybody coming. So let the questions come in or comments. Any questions or comments?
Not yet, but I'm watching it.
Okay.
Amy, Manuel, do y'all have anything y'all want to add? Not to put you on the spot, but just...
I agree with you, Seth, with what you just said. Yeah, it's sometimes we think things are a really good idea, and then but we're not the ones that implement them. So it is really great to hear from you guys. Or if there's anything in the rule that even that we didn't update that you might have a question, or we're here to answer it.
And if you guys want to raise your hands, if it's easier to ask the question verbally, we probably have time to do that. Don't you think, Amy and Wendy?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
We do have an 811 question that just came in. Is it the management company's responsibility to work the 811 wait list?
That would be a question for our 811 admin department. So that is another thing, like not only does 10.624 only outlines the compliance monitoring for 811, the wait list is handled by the 811 PRA division at the department. So you would need to reach out to Bill Craner, who's the manager, or Caitlin Devlin, who handles the wait list for the 811. So not only do you have to know 10.624, but you also have to know they have their own section of the 10TAC where they have their rules posted, and their rules are covering wait list. They have notices that have to be sent to them if you're terminating tenancy and stuff like that. All of that is outlined in their rules. This 10.624 change does not move their rules into our rules because they have their own functions that they do, and the wait list is one of those. So you would need to reach out to them.
Okay, we've got another question about section 622. Are annual rent increases limited to lease signing, or can rent increases occur during the lease period?
That is going to depend on your program. That is a very program specific question. And you could probably email myself or Wendy with your program, and we can let you know. There are requirements for MFDL that require a lease signing. So.
Okay, and then we've got another question that asks, is it possible to put the draft changes on the website so we can see the proposed changes and make comments, use the forum like multifamily?
Wendy just answered.
Yeah, we will do our best to make that happen, and I will definitely be talking to our direct supervisor about that. Again, we can't post anything until everybody's had an opportunity to review and comment, and that includes our legal division and our executive division. So if I can get it done early enough, I'm happy to do that and take comment before then, just like they do in multifamily. I will work towards that goal, but I'm not making any promises.
And we do have a raised hand. James Rickenbacker, I'm going to unmute you on our end. You can unmute yourself and ask your question if you'd like.
Thank you for the reminder to unmute. I was just talking away right there. Good morning, TDHCA. I tuned in a little bit late and I heard Amy just concluding a segment on solar panels, or maybe it was renewable energy credits, and wanting to see the credit down at the tenant level. Did I get that right? I do actually have solar panels on at least one project right now, but it only credits the property because it offsets my clubhouse operating expenses effectively. What's the concept with regard to trying to get the credit down to the tenant? I mean, how do you do that?
So in that case, James and Kara, I'm going to allow you to jump in if I say this wrong, but in that case, that is fine. That we have no problem with that. What you could not do, and what our rule says, is that you could not submit to us a utility allowance using solar. Because the tenant is not benefiting from your solar. So you can benefit from your solar as long as you're not trying to incorporate that into a utility allowance for your tenants, right? So the tenant, it has to be based on their usage or an estimate of their usage, and they're not getting the solar benefit. So you can keep doing what you're doing as long as you're not trying to incorporate that solar usage into your utility allowance.
Gotcha. Thank you. I had no idea you could even run solar through a utility allowance schedule somehow. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions or comments or?
Not right this minute. Maybe people are typing. Oh, we do. Brian, I'm going to unmute you on our end. We've got Brian Gamble with a question.
Hi, thank you guys for doing this. I wanted to ask about 10.622L, specifically where it's talking about $75 change and 75-day notice unless it's required by a federal housing program. So I'm thinking of properties layered with project-based Section 8, where now with HOTMA, there's more flexibility and options for owners to set a policy on when they would do an interim certification, which may result in that $75 increase. So I'm wondering if the language can be changed there so that rather than saying a housing program that requires such a change, it would be a little softer. That's, a housing program that allows for such a change.
That's a great suggestion, Brian. We really appreciate that. We are taking notes as y'all ask questions and speak. So I like that suggestion a lot.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Brian.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, I'm going to unmute you. We've got Jen Brereton with a question.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I just want to echo what Brian said. Thank you so much for this roundtable and for consideration, taking out the whole rule. Just really, really appreciate staff for that open communication. Might not even have comments for you, but we appreciate it.
Glad to do it. Thank you so much for the positive feedback. And anything else? We'll give people a minute or two.
Yeah, nothing's coming through so far.
Well, if we don't have any more questions or comments, I want to take this opportunity to thank all our partners for attending today, taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this virtual roundtable and your feedback. We are taking notes as comments come in and questions. We are also going to post this and make it available on our department's YouTube channel. So you have somebody in your organization or something like that that didn't have the opportunity to attend today but wanted to hear what was said, please feel free to share. We'll send out an email notification once it's been made available on the department's website. If you did not want to question or comment here in the public forum, you are welcome to send Amy or myself an email, or if you have any comment that you didn't want to share during this webinar, but you have a comment you want to share, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to respond and take your suggestions and feedback via email as well. Amy, you have anything you want to add?
Nope, I think you said everything that we are all thinking.
No more questions or comments?
Nope. Several people are saying thanks for the opportunity. Oh, we do have somebody that would like to know if you guys can touch on the PFC information.
Yes, I can. So we have a proposed PFC workbook. It's being reviewed right now internally, and I am just waiting to hear the go-ahead. We are working on Monday to set up a web link on our department's website and create that PFC website with the information. We will be sending out an email notification as soon as that website's set up with the information, such as monitoring tools, the income certification form, list of auditors that have contacted us that would like to be on the list. If there's any auditors that would like to be on the list that we publish, please look at our rule. If you qualify, please email Amy and myself and we will add you to the list. We are moving as fast as we can right now with that PFC stuff, and hopefully we'll have a lot more information early next week. Great question, thank you.
So a follow-up to that, is the report still due June 1st annually for those PFC deals?
Yes, if they are required to report, yes.
Okay.
But however, if you think an extension is needed, please email me and we will run it by legal.
And then someone else is asking, what is PFC?
What is what?
PFC. I think the acronym is something they're not familiar with.
PFC. PFC stands for Public Facility Corporation. It's housed in House Bill 2071, and it is a new legislative requirement that TDHCA review third-party audit reports.
Will an extension be available for PFC reporting?
We are going to, that's an excellent question, and we will run that by our legal division. Please email me separately for that as well.
All right. There is another question. Will PFC developments closed prior to House Bill 2071 be obligated to report on June 1st?
I would say you need to visit our rule that's on our that's linked from our website. It's very specific on who needs to report, and if they have to comply with certain sections of Chapter 303, they are required to report. If they are not required to report with those sections and were completed prior to June 18th, then they do not need to report.
I will put the link to the PFC rule in the chat.
Right, thank you, Kara. We have a new website and it is a little challenging to navigate, especially if you were used to our old website.
So the follow-up to that one, Wendy, is even if the PFC agreements were executed back in 2020 or 2021,
My answer still has not changed. So if they have to comply with those sections, it says it very clearly in our rule. And I have heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that some of those agreements are being amended, requiring them to comply. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's just what I've heard.
Okay, and somebody else said, thank you, that was a great answer. Thank you for validating the new website pain. We all feel it.
Of course, we feel it too. We're still learning.
Thankfully, the search on the website works beautifully. I'm not showing any hands raised or any other questions right this minute.
Can I just say that I would like to thank all of our housing partners, since the majority of you are here, for your patience, kindness, and understanding as we went through our first version of the web-based income and rent tool. Next year, it will be easier and faster. We have worked out all of the kinks with our IS department. As of today, when you print it to PDF, the 2024s are there. I've looked at them. We have fixed almost all. If you see any error or feel like there might be an error in your limits, please reach out to myself or Wendy, and we will double check those and make sure that we get the right things corrected. We have, again, I really feel like IS has worked really, really hard on this. They have put a lot of time and effort into it. And I promise next year will be very quick. Probably within days of getting the limits, we should be able to get them uploaded and published next year. We've worked out all of things, but I want to thank you all. I know that it was painstakingly a long wait, and I appreciate all of you for being patient and kind through that wait.
We have a follow-up to that, Amy. Thank you for bringing that up. Will you keep links up indefinitely so that we can go back a year or 2 or 5 on the web tool and confirm retroactive income and rent limit?
Yes. There will be a function for the an archive function. It won't be, and 2024 will be the first web-based archive. So 2023 is not web-based archived. That is just internally archived. So if you need the 2023 Excel version tool, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to get you a copy of that. But starting in 2024, there will be a 2025 will have 2024 web-based archived, and you will be able to do a drop down and select the year. I think that's how it's going to work. The template for this has already been set up through IS, so it's a really easy archive conversion.
Somebody else said, thank you. The change is always scary, but it's going to be good. That's it for right now.
Oh, and the multifamily direct loan limits are loaded and in there and available, but please know the effective date for those is 6/1. So they are, that is, if you pull them right now, you're not pulling your current, you're pulling the 6/1 effective. So if you need the 2023 tool to look at current ones, I'm sure you have a copy of your current one somewhere, but if you lost it, need it, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to get that for you. But yes, the current web-based tool is pulling the multifamily direct loan effective 6/1.
All right. I think that we have gotten lots of great information. Do we have another question?
Just, I thought so, but they're just thanking us for our time. Roundtable, this is great for all that we do. They appreciate it.
We feel the same way. Thank you so much, and ditto.
I think I don't have any hands raised or any other questions right this second.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time this morning, and I guess we will conclude this. And again, we will send out an email notification when this has been made available on our YouTube channel and department website. Absolutely. And thanks again, everybody. We appreciate you folks out there in the audience. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you all. With that, I will end the webinar for everybody, and we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.